This is 6 Minutes, the Seriously International Daily Newscast. It's Monday, February 17th, and I'm Jacob Shropshire.
And I'm Anne-Sophie Goninet. The workday is winding down in Sri Lanka while the wheels are just getting turning in Ecuador. Here in the WorldCrunch newsroom in Paris, it's just after midday. These are the latest headlines. Europe holds emergency talks to discuss how to respond to Trump on Ukraine, while Russian and U.S. officials are preparing to meet in Saudi Arabia. Israel's security cabinet will address the next phase of the Gaza ceasefire. And our daily quiz question comes from right here in Belle, France. Our top story today is Europe's emergency summit in Paris, as the Trump administration may try to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine with bilateral talks with Moscow. This comes amid worries that the US and Russia may hatch a deal to end the war without Europe's involvement. Russian state-run media reported that the Russian foreign minister and a close aide to President Vladimir Putin are flying to Saudi Arabia to meet US officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who has already arrived in Riyadh. This will mark the first high-level in-person discussions in years between Russian and US officials.
Israel's security cabinet is set to discuss Phase 2 of the Gaza ceasefire Monday, in the 500th day of war triggered by Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack into southern Israel. This discussion follows a meeting between top U.S. diplomat Marco Rubio and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, during which they presented a united front against Hamas and Iran. 1 week out from Germany's general election, the 4 leading chancellor candidates took the stage on Sunday evening for a fiery televised debate. The debate focused on the economy, Ukraine, migration, and last week's controversial remarks about the German election by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. The CDU's Friedrich Merz is favored to edge out incumbent Chancellor Olaf Scholz in this coming Sunday's election. Meanwhile, about 30,000 people joined a Berlin demonstration against the far right yesterday.
South Korean authorities announced on Monday that the DeepSeek AI app will be removed from app stores temporarily, pending a review of the company's handling of user data. Seoul's Personal Information Protection Commission said it would examine the AI model's personal data processing practices to ensure compliance with local laws. Now let's take a closer look at what the international press is covering.
Saudi Arabian outlet Okaz led with photos of Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin on its front page, talking about the summit between U.S. and Russian leaders in Riyadh to attempt to reach a ceasefire in Russia's war with Ukraine. The two poles of the world in Riyadh, the paper headlined. Argentinian business daily El Cronista devoted its front page to the unfolding scandal over President Javier Milei's public support for what appears to be a crypto scam known as a rug pull. The Argentine opposition is calling for Milei's impeachment, and lawyers have filed fraud charges against the president over the weekend.
There is a piece from Italian daily La Stampa on this pivotal moment for NATO, as Donald Trump looks to sidestep the Atlantic Alliance. Jacob, tell us about this piece.
Former Italian diplomat Stefano Stefanini argues that NATO as we know it is dead after the stance taken last week by top Trump administration officials at the Munich Security Conference. He writes, "This new NATO will be one that is no longer sure how much the United States cares about the defense of Europe, from the threat of Russia, or from anyone who puts its security at risk. For the United States, Europe is no longer a priority." Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said it in plain English on Wednesday to a room of some 50 NATO counterparts and partners. This undermines the glue of the alliance, the one for all for one spirit, which made European and Atlantic securities one and the same. The pooling of security had continued undaunted without geographical connotations, so much so that NATO's Article 5 was applied for the first and last time after September 11th in support of the US. No European objected that their priorities were geographically elsewhere. Hegseth's statement, among other things, which seems tame compared to the version previously provided to the press, quote, "We're also here today to directly and unambiguously express that stark strategic realities prevent the United States of America from being primarily focused on the security of Europe," end quote. The White House's turn away from Europe is for NATO a major reversal from its most influential member.
Ugandan outlet Monitor celebrated Ugandan runner Jacob Kiplimo, who set a new world record for the men's half marathon, breaking for the first time the 57-minute mark and beating the previous record time by 48 seconds. We're closing things out today with our daily quiz question, which comes from here in France. A rare bronze by early 20th century French sculptor Camille Claudel was auctioned off for $3.1 million after it had vanished for 15 years. But where was the sculpture discovered? Was it A. under a dusty sheet in an abandoned flat, B. at the bottom of a Parisian canal, C. mislabeled in the Louvre, or D. in a dumpster in Brittany? The correct answer is A. A copy of the Mature Age, a rare bronze by French sculptor Camille Claudel, was discovered by chance by lifting up a dust sheet in a Paris flat that had been abandoned for around 15 years. The sculpture, which exists in several copies, is thought to evoke Claudel's separation with fellow artist and lover Auguste Rodin. The artist had destroyed much of her work before her brother confined her to a psychiatric hospital in 1913.
That's the latest from around the world. If you liked this podcast, we would really appreciate it if you could help us out with a follow, a share, and a 5-star rating on your preferred podcasting platform. For more of the best of the international press delivered exclusively in English every day, visit us at worldpunch.com. We'll see you here tomorrow. À demain.